Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to Undisputed, live from Los Angeles. I'm Jen Hale, here with Skip Bayless. We got Shannon Sharpe joining us from Denver. Hi there, gentlemen.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Skip. How you doing today?
So tell the people why you were in Denver, Colorado.
Well, Skip, I'm out here for the homegoing service. Mr. B, Pat Bowler, the owner of the Denver Broncos, passed away about a week ago. And so they asked, the family reached out to me and asked would I be able to attend the special services that's going to be held here today at around 2 o'clock. And I was more than honored to be able to pay my respects to a man that's done so much for me.
And I was willing to give you up for kind of half a day, because you're kind of there for half a day, right?
I'm here for half a day,
Yep.
Skip, and I appreciate that. So you should be glad. I only get to beat you down for an hour and a half.
Really?
You should feel proud.
Oh, okay.
Not the 2.5 hours you normally get pummeled.
Well, let's see how that goes starting right now.
Yes, thoughts and prayers are with the Bolin family. What a legacy. Let's turn now to the NBA and the impending free agency. Yahoo's Chris Haynes reports Kawhi Leonard will decline his player option and instead become an unrestricted free agent. Kawhi is reportedly considering re-signing with the Raptors, though. Rival execs think Toronto is the favorite to keep the claw, but don't count out the Clippers. Take a look. 2 billboards, not put up by the team, FYI, popped up about 10 miles from Staples Center this weekend, urging Kawhi to join the Clippers. Not so subtle sign. Shannon, do you believe Toronto is still the favorite to keep Kawhi as of now?
Skip, you remember last week we had this very same discussion, and I said I believe it was 60-40 that the Raptors had the inside track to sign Kawhi for the simple fact, you know, Skip, we hear a lot of these players say, you know, I want to go somewhere where I can compete for a title. Well, hell, Kawhi doesn't have to compete. He won the title with this very team. Everyone comes back. Everyone is under contract with the exception of Denny Green. We all believe that Marc Gasol will pick up his player option and stay at least one more year. If Kawhi wanted to, he could do a 1-1, stay 1 year with a player option for a second year. He could do a 2-1. Then, Skip, if once he becomes a 10-year vet, he is entitled to 35% of whatever the cap is. So for me, knowing what he's been able to establish in Toronto, the trust that he's been able to build between the organization, the training staff, and the players, I think the known versus the unknown of going to the Clippers. Now, we all understand what Jerry West represents. He's as good as it gets as far as building a team into championship caliber. But the Toronto Raptors have something that the Clippers do not have. They have a year head start of working on Kawhi, giving Kawhi what he wants. Because this is what we know. Kawhi, you don't want to play back-to-back? No problem. If you need, another 10, 15, 20 games, load management, no problem. I think it's reported, Skip. It's not reported, it's fact. He missed 73 games in San Antonio his last year. He missed another 22. So in the past 2 years, he's missed 95 total games. Now, I don't believe he'll miss half that many games coming the next 2 years, but there's a very good chance he's going to miss moving forward probably somewhere between 10 and 20 games a season because of load management. The Raptors understand that. They have enough trust in Kawhi. He's built up enough respect with the organization, with the training staff. When he goes to them and says, I'm not feeling it tonight, I don't feel 100%, they're going to say, no problem. They're not going to look at him with a side eye. They're not going to, as you said, put him on the hot seat, have the play. Are you with us, Kawhi, or are you against us? Kawhi has built up something very, very good in Toronto. For me, I believe it was 60-40 last week. It might be trending towards 70-30. Who knows, maybe even 75-25. And Skip, he signed that big old deal. The same company that gave Drake that big 767, that jumbo business Boeing jet, they just signed Kawhi. I don't know why you would sign a guy a long-term deal in a different country if he ain't gonna be in that country.
So, are you finished?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm finished.
So, I want to get this straight because I just heard a Hall of Fame Denver Bronco applauding this man for load management, applauding this man for being babied for months on end in San Antonio and in Toronto, 73 and 22 games that he missed, because both teams just kept saying, here, more, you need more games? Here, take more games off. You can't play back-to-back? Here. So a guy I'm looking at right now through this big-headed monitor that I have to stare at with your big head in it, this guy who's in the Hall of Fame, who's in Denver today for all the right reasons, because he played for a great owner and he gave it all. He gave up body and soul for the Broncos, right?
Yes.
You played hurt probably
yes.
just like every game you played with some kind of injury somehow. You got this injection for that and this injection for that, and half of it you just had to say, I'm going to tough it out today. So now we're applauding this man, and this man you kept giving the excuse all through the conference finals and into the NBA finals, saying, he's hurt. It's a big concern for the Raptors because he's hurt. And I kept saying, how? Why? What's hurt? Well, he's still got that thigh thing going. I don't know what it is because the Spurs couldn't figure out what it was, but he still had it going this year in Toronto, which led to, quote unquote, overcompensation, which led to left knee. It went from right quad to left knee. Something, tendonitis. I don't know what it was. Tendinosis of his knee. He probably has a new condition that he invented. But the point is, you kept telling me how big a deal his injury was going into the finals, and now it's not even a narrative as he comes into free agency as the primo domino. He's number one. Where he falls, everybody else is going to fall after number two. So help me out here. Why is his injury condition not a factor here? Because obviously, he's now the toast of New York and the toast of L.A. Both New York teams want him, both L.A. teams want him, but nobody's talking about he's perpetually hurt. Usually that would be the narrative for any other player we ever discuss on this show, right?
No, that would probably be the narrative in any other sport, but not in basketball, because we see teams lining up to give Kevin Durant, who has a ruptured Achilles, a max deal. We see teams lining up to offer Klay Thompson, who has a torn ACL, a max deal. So what we're starting to see, Skip, in basketball, when you have one of these players that can swing the pendulum of power, and that's what Kawhi Leonard can do, and that's what he did for the Toronto Raptors, you're willing to forego that. Yeah, he had some injuries. Yeah, he missed 73 games in 2018. Yes, he missed another 22 games in 2018, 2019 for load management. We get all of that. Because he's a top three player. He's one of these players that you can build your franchise around, and you have an opportunity to compete for the not only now, but for the very near future for titles. So they're willing to forego that because we see two of the top 5 free agents have catastrophic injuries, and teams are lining up to offer them max contracts. So at least Kawhi Leonard said, yes, I had some injuries. I had tendonitis from overcompensating in my right leg, my right quad. But I'm healthy. I finished the season standing, and I won a title. Skip, he's one of the de facto dominoes. He and KD are the two biggest fish that are out there, and everybody's going to line up to sign those guys, even though one guy is not going to play all of next year, and the other guy missed 95 games over the previous 2 seasons.
Okay, but the big difference between number 2 and KD and Klay is that even though KD has had some injury history of having bad injuries that kept him out, neither KD nor Klay has ever asked for load management. They've never had nicks and knacks, just where, they just need a little time off, especially Klay Thompson. I mean, you're betting on the ultimate warrior here, and I'm talking about lowercase w in warrior. And so nobody has any qualm about giving Klay a max because he's going to play his tail off for you. He's going to play with minor injuries. So will KD. He can't play with major injuries, obviously, in his past, but neither has a history of load management issues. So now let me just step back from this and put it in perspective for everyone. This guy, number 2, has become the luckiest player to me in the history of the NBA because not only did he hit the luckiest shot in the history of the playoffs to beat a Philly team in Game 7 at the buzzer that wouldn't have gotten to the buzzer if Embiid had not been sick and hurt all through that series. Philly was the better team. And then what happens in the finals, KD comes back right on cue and is starting to take over Game 5, and it looks like he's going to take over the series, and he ruptures his Achilles. And then Klay in Game 6, he has taken over Game 6, and it appears he's taken over the finals. And at the end of the third quarter, he wrecks his knee. So now 2 major dominoes are off the table going into free agency, where not that they won't merit their max contracts, but they're out of the way, which means that number 2 suddenly becomes the biggest prize in all of free agency. And it's mind-boggling to me because now everybody is crawling for number 2. They're willing to give number 2 whatever he wants. However many games. He could play half the year next year. If that was part of his deal that he made with anybody, with Toronto, Clippers, Nets, Knicks, whoever it is, even Lakers, if he said, I'll play 41 games for you next year, they'd all give him whatever he wanted. You just know it because KD's out of sight and a little bit out of mind right now. Not that he won't get his money, but you have to shelve him for a whole year and maybe Klay for much of this year. So all of a sudden, I'm back. I'm going to say it one last time because I just can't get it out of my system. This is why crime has paid, because he quit his way out of San Antonio, and he winds up getting every break he could ever get in Toronto. And it continues to drive me a little crazy because it's just not fair. He won the MVP to me by default of the finals because in games 2, 5, and 6, nobody wants to hear this, but he failed miserably to close all 3 of those games. And I don't have time to go through the detail, but he just flat out, he couldn't do it. Van Vliet could do it, but he couldn't.
First of all, Skip Bayless, I'm tired of you talking about fair. Fair is a place where you go and you judge livestock, you can ride the merry-go-round, and you buy candied apples. That's what the fair is. Second of all, he earned that. First, let's look at this. There are really 2 guys that are out there on the free agent market that you believe they can swing the pendulum of power in your favor. One will not play all basketball season next year. That's Kevin Durant. The other guy that you believe that can swing the pendulum of power because he's done it is Kawhi Leonard. Now, this is not to take anything away from Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson is a very good ball player, but he's not a tier 1 player of the caliber of KD, of Kawhi. We understand that. But, Skip, he's done everything you could ask him to do. Yes, they gave him load management, but when you get these guys, when you get these superstars, Skip, you must understand what you're dealing with. They understand that Kawhi is going to come to them, and he's probably not going to play back-to-back for the very considerable future. That should be okay if a championship is your ultimate goal. He might need to take 15, 20 games. That's okay if a championship is your ultimate goal. Skip, look. The guy doesn't say a whole lot, and we really don't know where he's ultimately going to end up. But for me, Toronto is the best situation because he doesn't have to guess, are they going to put a team around me that can contend for a title? Because the team that's already surrounding him won the title. Now, we might have debated, now about 5 or 10 years from now, we might want to have a debate. Well, Kawhi would have never won that title had KD been healthy, had Klay not gotten hurt. But that's neither here nor there. They have the title, and they get to keep it for perpetuity. He is healthy, a top 3 player. He's the best 2-way player in all of basketball, and it's not close. Skip, nobody can do what this kid can do as far as on the offensive end and on the defensive end. He's going to get his money. You guys did not show him the respect that he thought he deserved. You guys didn't trust him when he felt that he had earned the trust being Finals MVP, 2 times Defensive Player of the Year, 2 times First Team All-NBA. No other player would have had to go through in their organization what Kawhi went through playing for the San Antonio Spurs. So he said, you know what? You believe I'm faking it? Get me up out of here, and I'm going to go win a title for someone else and make you have egg on your face. And that's what he did.
We let him sit for 60 games before we started turning up the heat. Think about that. 60 games. It's okay. It's okay. Just do whatever you got to do. Just get healthy for the playoffs. Then it comes to mid-March, and the veterans, the Hall of Fame-bound veterans on that team finally said, okay, that's enough. We're playing hurt. He's got to play a little bit hurt because he's got a thigh bruise. Tony Parker, my injury, 100 times worse than his. So get good riddance. You know, this is fine, but you just hate to see a guy benefit from quitting and then become the premium piece in all of free. Yes, he did. He exaggerated his injury and he quit. Okay, so back to Toronto. To your point, I agree with you. Toronto makes all the sense except for one problem. It's in Toronto, right? So that's the only problem with Toronto. It's in Toronto, right? Even though he's become the toast of the whole country, the toast of Canada.
Guess what else is in Toronto? The Larry O'Brien Trophy. Guess what else is in Toronto?
But
the Finals MVP.
You're not listening to my point. He didn't want to go to Toronto to begin with. He wanted to go home to Southern California. His uncle wanted him in New York or Philadelphia, and that's still obviously on the table. But Toronto now has become a loaded team. You kept making the point Milwaukee has the better roster. Baloney. Toronto is loaded and is getting more loaded because OG Anunoby had an appendicitis and couldn't even get back for the finals. Do you remember him as a rookie going back 2 years ago?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened? He started 62 games for Toronto because he was a really good young rookie out of Indiana, and he was the one who guarded LeBron in the middle round of the playoffs? I think it was the second round. But when they played LeBron, he guarded him, and he had a hard time, but they put him on
Not
LeBron.
very well.
Okay, but my point is, Siakam is becoming a star. He's going to be an all-star next year. And we saw what Van Vliet does as their closer. We saw what Lowry can do. Gasol's almost certainly going to be back. He's got a player option, and you still got Ibaka. This team is loaded, and so obviously if he rejoins them, they're going to be a prohibitive favorite. I'm not talking about in the East. They're going to unseat and dethrone your Lakers as the favorite to win next year's championship.
Ain't gonna happen.
Want to bet? If he rejoins, guess what'll happen? They will vault to the top of the odds. They will have the best odds to win next year's championship.
Do you want to put due on that?
Sure.
Do you want to put due on that?
Well, they will. They just will.
Cases.
Huh?
No, they won't.
Yeah,
no,
they will. If he resigns, are you kidding? The defending champs?
I don't care who they can resign him and Vince Carter. They're not unseating the Lakers as the favorite to win the title. But let me tell you the difference. You mentioned Milwaukee and you mentioned Toronto's supporting cast. The difference between Toronto and Milwaukee, Toronto's supporting cast showed up. We didn't get the production that we thought. Chris Middleton did not play like the all-star, Skip, that we thought he was. Bledsoe did not play the way we had seen him play all throughout the regular season and the first part of the playoffs. We didn't see that. But what we did see is that we saw Siakam step up big. We saw Kyle Lowry, although he started slow, he played unbelievable once you got past those first two ball games. And then you get a game or two from Serge Ibaka. One game he has 6 blocks. The other game he has 20 points. You get these game one. You get this from Siakam, 32 points. And then game 6, to close that game, what is he, 25 and 10, 26 and 10. So what you got was the consistency from the role players that Milwaukee had given you all year long, but come playoff time, they weren't able to give you that. And let's not forget the Greek freak, Antetokounmpo, Skip. He did not play like he played in the regular season. He didn't play like he played against Boston.
Sorry, they all got exposed.
Who exposed them? Who the one that showed them that they were streaking?
Gasol, Ibaka, Siakam, exposed Giannis. That's what happened.
Anytime that you go to anytime you mention the Raptors, if you do not start with this guy's name, I'm going to have to discredit anything you say after that. Okay. Let's start with Kawhi, and if you want to go Siakam, if you want to go Lowry, if you want to go Gasol, Van Vliet, that's fine. But everything starts with that guy.
He'll always be number 2 to me, which brings us to the second team in LA, the Clippers. And I'm not counting the Clippers out of this because between Steve Ballmer, Jerry West, and Doc Rivers, those are 3 very persuasive human beings. And if they do get their meeting with number 2 and Uncle Dennis, I think they will make a very strong case that he belongs as on the second team in LA. A little out of the spotlight, but he can become their Kobe. He can become bigger than LeBron in LA on the second team, a little out of the spotlight.
He'll never be bigger than LeBron. He'll never be bigger than LeBron.
They're going to present their case to him, and it will be a strong one.
But here's the thing. I get that. But what can they offer him that he can't get in Toronto? A chance to compete for a title? Been there, done that.
Well,
Be all NBA?
There's
been
another
there,
huge domino out there, but it's a 2-year out domino, and that's Kevin Durant. I'm not going to put it past number 2 to join forces with KD. It could be with the Knicks. It could be with the Nets. And it definitely could be with the Clippers. Now, you won't have him next year, but you just have to bite a bullet for 1 year to get to a chance to have a dominating dynastic team with KD in his second year.
Raptors or bust.
Gentlemen, great stuff to start this morning off. What a way to kickstart Monday, huh? Here's how the money shakes down. Raptors can offer Kawhi 5 years at $190. Another franchise could offer him a max of 4 years at $140. Still to come this morning, we are sticking with the free agency frenzy. Is Kevin Durant heading to New York? And when we say New York, which team do we mean? We'll discuss that up next. Don't forget to check us out every day on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We'll be right back.
No mercy.
Hi there, Undisputed listeners. It's Jen Hale, here to talk to you about our sponsor, Harry's. Did you know the average guy will spend 3,000 hours of his lifetime shaving? Don't waste 4 months of your life overpaying for poor-performing razors. Get Harry's, a razor so sharp you can shave less often and save money. Join the 10 million who have tried Harry's. Claim your special offer by going to harrys.com/undisputed. Harry's founders were 2 regular guys tired of getting ripped off and paying for overpriced gimmicks. Harry's makes quality, durable blades at a fair price, just $2 per blade. Harry's also has a 100% quality guarantee. If you don't love your shave, let them know. They'll give you a full refund. Get a trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. A weighted ergonomic handle for an easy grip. 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade for a close shave. A rich lathering shave gel that will leave you smelling great. Plus a travel blade cover to keep your razor dry and easy on the go. Undisputed listeners can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/undisputed. If you prefer to shop in store, Harry's razors are also available at Walmart and Target. Thanks again for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. Now, back to the show.
No mercy.
Kevin Durant's basketball future may very well be in Brooklyn. Well, that's if you believe his former teammate Kendrick Perkins. Perk told ESPN, quote, "Sources tell me the Nets are the front runner." Now, KD can earn about an extra $60 million and 1 more year on a max contract if he stays with Golden State. But we all know he's expected to miss next season with that Achilles injury. Shannon, do you believe the Nets are indeed the front runner for KD?
I do not. I still believe it's the Warriors. And I understand why the skepticism with the Warriors, considering that what transpired. Kevin Durant received bad advice, not only from the team doctors and trainers, but also from outside doctors. And so I get that, but that is a situation where Kevin Durant, when he comes back, will he still be the Kevin Durant? Now, playing with Clay, playing with Steph, playing with Draymond, we know those guys, for the most part, Skip, will be, when Kevin Durant comes back and he's able to play, those guys will still be in Golden State. Now, if he doesn't go to Golden State, which I believe I will give Golden State a slight nod, I always felt the Nets were the favorite over the Knicks for the simple fact they have more pieces. They have Spencer Dinwiddie. They have Karis LeVert. They have Allen, who's a young, promising center. Now, they're in line, everybody, for Every time I hear someone talk, it is foregone conclusion that Kyrie is going to the Nets. They have the most pieces that when Kevin Durant comes back, they will be ready to contend, considering they made the playoffs without a Kyrie, they made the playoffs without a Kevin Durant, and these young players will only get better. I forgot, Skip, Joe, I think his name is Joe Harris, who won the three-point competition, who can really, really shoot the basketball. The Knicks, Skip, I get the Knicks. I get the history. I get the lure of playing in Madison Square Garden, one of the grandest arenas in all of the world, not just America, all the world. Some of the top performers in whatever you do, whether you sing, whether you dance, whether you tell jokes, you play a sport, you want to perform on this stage. And I get that. But if you look at the last basically 2 decades of the Knicks, yeah, they have history. It's just bad history. 1 playoff win in 19 seasons. Could I interest you in that, Skip? We don't know what they're going to get. You said Kevin Durant shouldn't go there alone. Well, for all indication, Kyrie's going to the Nets. It looks like Kawhi's going to stay in Toronto. Now what? He and Jimmy Butler? I do not look at Jimmy Butler as a superstar. I do not look at him as a tier 1 guy like I look at Kawhi, like I look at KD or Harden or a LeBron James. I don't see him in that same category, Skip. So for me, I would say the Golden State Warriors have a slight nod, followed by the Nets, and a distant third would be the Knicks.
So I remind you, our man Rick Bucher from Bleacher Report actually reported, sitting right here next to me on our show the other day, Kevin Durant and his inner circle not happy with the way the injury thing was handled by Golden State. So I don't know the gory details of that, but that's what Rick said. I'm taking it to my bank. We know that it was widely reported that Draymond and KD got into it back in November on the bench at Staples versus Clippers, and it got really, really ugly. And even you were the first to say, you know, when does the truth spill out? Either when you're drinking or you're mad, right? And he was
angry.
really mad. And he blurted out, "We won without you," and then he called him the B word. Okay, to me, the bridge may not be burned, but it was on fire from there. So there are 2 reasons why Kevin won't return to Golden State. Now, this is the Kevin I've come to know from a distance because I've closely observed him. I know several people are very close to him. And the one thing I've learned about Kevin is if it becomes a runaway media train that he is bound for the Nets, then the last team he's going to sign with is the Nets, because Kevin doesn't respond well to that. And right now it seems like everybody's jumping on the train, all the reporters, because everybody right now is guessing. You get a hint here and a little smirk here, and you think, we put 2 and 2 together, and it means 4. It means he's going to the Nets. I don't know. I just know this about Kevin. He shocked the world once, and I'm talking about July 4th of 2016. Was that not a bomb that he dropped that day? Remember?
Yes.
Wait a second.
Nobody saw that coming.
He's going to Golden State? Wait, the team that came back from 3-1 down and beat his Oklahoma City Thunder? Really? That team? He just joined forces with Steph and Clay and Draymond? Really? That happened? A lot of people still haven't gotten over that one. Well, Kevin loves the drama. Kevin is the thinnest skinned superstar I've ever closely observed. He reads everything. He takes much of it to heart. So if he reads that he's going to the Nets and it's a done deal over the next couple of days, I think he'll undo that deal because that would not shock the world. He doesn't want to be conventional. He doesn't want to be put in a little box of, it's predictable he's going to the Nets. Well, what else could happen? I'm just going to throw out wild ideas. Is it possible he would go to the Celtics? Sure it is. Don't rule that one out because they have the cap room. What if he convinced Kyrie, I'm going to take you back to Boston and we're going to make you a success in Boston?
No.
Okay, Kevin loves the Celtics. He loves the tradition. He loves the city. He's talked about it before. I'm just saying that's a long, long shot, but it's still a shot. Don't rule out the Dallas Mavericks or the Houston Rockets playing with James Harden because Daryl Morey says, I'm willing to shake it completely up. I'm just saying that's how Kevin would shock you and drop your jaw, right? He would drop your jaw if he went to one of those teams.
Houston, yes.
Well, who saw Golden State
Yes.
coming the first time around? The Nets are almost too predictable.
Nobody.
And I don't get this. You keep talking about Dinwiddie and LeVert and Jared Allen, blah, 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 Joe Harris. They're just nice guys to me. They're all nice players, but they're not dominating players. It's not loaded the way Toronto is right now loaded. They're not on the verge. So I'm not so sure about that.
But you put Kevin Durant because those same players without Kawhi got swept twice in the Eastern Conference. You add Kawhi Leonard to that mix, now all of a sudden they're the NBA champs. You put Kevin Durant in New Jersey with that talent. Let's just say for the sake of argument, he brings Kyrie along with him. Or Kyrie brings KD along with him with that. You're not telling me they're not contenders now?
Okay, all right. So why do we keep hearing that Rock Nation is the tie that binds Kevin to the Nets? Remember, Jay-Z had to sell all of his portion of his ownership when he started Rock Nation and became a quote-unquote agent. So he's out. And then Rich Kleiman, who is Kevin's manager for a long time, he was one of the original cornerstones of Rock Nation, but he
helped start Rock Nation.
But he left in 2013. That's 6 years, going on 7 years ago. So I'm not sure that even though Kevin is a Rock Nation client, that makes him bound for the Nets. I don't know. Remember, they're still the Clippers of New York. And again, I can't make a case that the Knicks are the Lakers of New York because they haven't lived up to being the Lakers. They used to play the Lakers in the finals a lot, but they haven't won a final since 1973. So I can't make that case either.
Right.
But I'm still sticking by what I said whichever day, last day we talked, maybe it was Thursday. If I'm Kevin and Kyrie, I want to go to the Knicks, man, because that's legacy. I could go there and special things could happen. If I want to seal my deal as a maybe top 5 all-time player, I could make a case if I won championships with the Knicks, I could make a case I'm the second best player ever to Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I could.
Well, Skip, if I'm Kevin Durant, I'm looking at it like this. If I win a championship any place other than Golden State, I'm going to start to stake some claim to this. Because you have to look at what he would be able to do. He would have won a championship in 2 different locales. So, because what's happening is that we've taken so much away because he joined a 73-9 team, a team that he had down 3-1, allowed them to come back. He joined a team that had a 2-time league MVP. He won that last award unanimously, and he had probably the second, at worst case, the 3rd best shooter in NBA history already on that roster. So if he goes to the Nets and he wins the title, Skip, I don't think you disqualify him and says, well, he didn't win it with the Knicks. Because what we giving Kawhi credit for is that if Kawhi had gone to the Lakers and they won a title, he's not going to get the credit that he got for helping Toronto or leading Toronto to that title. So Knicks, Net, we're going to be splitting hairs here. If he wins a title outside of, we're going to view Kevin Durant a lot differently than we view him now.
Okay, I'm going to remind you one more time. Kevin Durant, since his rookie year, has the highest opponent's scoring average at Madison Square Garden in minimum of 8 games. He's played 9 there. And in those 9 games, he shot 45% from the three-point line. You don't think he'd love to play 41 games a year in that building? You don't think that would appeal to him? To be the toast of that city, to be in Manhattan instead of Brooklyn?
Skip, the man is 7 foot tall. He has maybe the greatest offensive games as far as being able to shoot the ball, put the ball on the floor, get to the basket. He probably has the highest scoring average in a lot of places where they played at least 8 minimum games. He's that special on the offensive end.
Okay. So let's roll it back then. Previous topic, we talked about number 2 and the Clippers. I'm not ruling out number 2 and KD to the Clippers because they can pull that off. And again, Ballmer, Jerry West, Doc Rivers, really persuasive. So what if they sold those 2 together? Come here. Let Kyrie go wherever he's going to go. Let him go to the Nets by himself. But you 2 come here.
What? Help me understand this, Skip. Rick Bucher said he talked to Kawhi, I think, last year. And he broached the subject about him playing with LeBron. and he says, I don't want to play with LeBron. I want to compete. I want to beat LeBron. If that's the case, why the hell would Kawhi want to join KD and compete with him and not compete and beat him? I'm confused.
Well, he said he wants to beat LeBron, and obviously if he had
Right.
KD as his quote-unquote wingman, and now LeBron's got AD, well, maybe he would like his chances to beat LeBron with KD.
So in other words, he just didn't want to be with LeBron. He doesn't mind playing against another transcendent player in KD. It was LeBron that was the holdup because you said KD now is the best player in the NBA. So he didn't want to play with one best player who was at the time the best player. He wanted to play with another because for me, he's going to lose a little bit either way, whether he plays with LeBron or KD. Because, Skip, we give him so much credit because what he was able to do in Toronto without a LeBron, without a KD, without a Hart or a Steph Curry, those guys are not the guys that he won the title with. Those are not the same caliber guys that we're talking about currently that can swing the pendulum of power.
Just remember, a lot has transpired since Rick Bucher talked to number 2 last year. That's a long time ago. A lot of water under that bridge right now. And I also remind you, last point, that Kevin Durant has had 2 houses here in the Los Angeles area. He recently put his home in Malibu up for sale, but I'm pretty sure he's still got the one up in the Hollywood Hills. So I don't know. He loves L.A., spends a lot of his offseason in L.A. I know he's got investments in Silicon Valley, but I'm not ruling out L.A. either. And the more I hear the Nets, the less I like the Nets as his destination.
Free agency begins
Well,
June 30th, 6 p.m., gentlemen. We'll get a lot of questions answered and a lot of dominoes will fall once KD makes that all-important decision. Great stuff, guys. Will Kawhi stay in Canada to continue his reign as King of the North? Shannon, Skip, they'll discuss that along with Chris Broussard coming up next.
No mercy.
Back to the NBA, where we are less than a week away from free agency. Yahoo's Chris Haynes reports Kawhi Leonard will decline his player option and become an unrestricted free agent. Kawhi is reportedly considering re-signing with the Raptors, though. Rival executives think Toronto is the favorite to keep the claw. However, the Clippers might still have a shot. 2 billboards, FYI, not put up by the team, appeared about 10 miles from Staples Center this weekend, urging Kawhi to join forces with the Clippers. We are joined by FS1 NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you believe Toronto is the favorite in the Kawhi sweepstakes?
Look, obviously Toronto is very much alive in this, but I still would pick the Clippers as the favorites.
Really?
I still will go. And look, obviously he could stay in Toronto, but I still think the Clippers are the favorites. I think this is going to come down to a lifestyle decision for Kawhi. And lifestyle-wise, I think he wants to be in Southern California. He wants to be in warm weather. Like, if you're that sold on Toronto or considering Toronto that strongly, why are you meeting with as many as 5 other teams? At least 4 other teams are what the reports are. Like, what has Toronto not done for you? You won a championship there. You can make $50 million more there. The city and the country has given you everything you want. You get along with your teammates. You fit well with them. The medical staff you can trust. Like, what else is there that you need to hear from anybody? And I don't think Kawhi is just a guy that wants to have this big tour and have it be so publicized and have that attention. I don't think that's it. What I think it is he wants to meet with other teams, particularly, I'm going to say the Clippers, to see if they'll offer you what Toronto did. So to see how their medical
what Toronto did in the way that they coddled him or babied
essentially.
him.
Well, I mean, like I'm not going to say they babied him, but look, the rest, the load management.
Yeah.
I don't know I doubt they'll go in there and say, look, Kawhi wants 15 games off a year, but I think they'll talk about the second game of back-to-backs or first game of back-to-backs. I think they'll talk about some type of load management. How do you feel about that? What if he needs rest during the regular season? So on and so forth. I think he wants to get a feel for that training staff. Can he trust them Do they have similar routines, techniques to what he experienced in Toronto? I think all of that. And look, the Clippers will give him all of that. We know how well they've done with their front office. We know Jerry West is there. He's the great salesman. Steve Ballmer will leave no stone unturned. He won't, fret about paying any amount of money to get Kawhi Leonard the best he wants. And remember, they essentially assigned people to study Kawhi, to go to Raptors games, to know everything they could about him. They're going to have a presentation tailor-made to Kawhi Leonard, the player and the person. And I think that combined with being back in Southern California, that's going to be a lot to turn down.
Yep. Shannon, you going to change your opinion on this?
See, actually, I'm not. Because you see, he has to go there and hope they give him that. Toronto is already giving him that. You see, this will be if Kawhi Leonard were to leave, he would be the first Finals MVP to leave and play for another team the following season. You see, Toronto is already giving him that. Load management. How many games you need? Take it. You off back-to-back? Take it. You're hoping, because you're hoping that the Clippers are going to be understanding as Toronto is. We don't know that. You see, can he build that trust? We don't have to build trust anymore. We already have trust in Toronto. We know what Toronto represents. They've given him everything that he's asked for. You're hoping that they can put pieces around him in order for him to be successful. Well, how much more successful can he be than what he was in Toronto? By winning the title and becoming Finals MVP. And also, Chris, you mentioned it. He could easily sign a 1 or 2 year deal, become a 10-year vested player, now be in line for the super duper max. Because what we've seen, and everybody say, well, why would he do that with his injury history? We see Kevin Durant with a ruptured Achilles, and teams are lining up to give him a max contract. We see Klay Thompson, torn ACL, on crutches for at least the next, 3 to 4 months, lining up to give him a max deal. So a guy being injured in the NBA is not the same thing as a guy being injured in MLB or NFL. These guys are going to get their money because these are the guys that can swing the pendulum of power. The Kawhis, the KDs. So it doesn't matter. It's just, for me, I don't really know what else he can ask for. He doesn't have to worry about putting pieces in place for him to contend. He won it. And those guys are all coming back except Denny Green, who was a free agent, and Marc Gasol can opt back in with his player option. So for me, I'm still going 60-40. And after hearing you speak, Chris Broussard, I think I'm going to go 75-25. Toronto.
Look, here's the thing. You mentioned the injury, and that's why I think Kawhi does need to be careful about a short-term deal, because he is injury. His body, as big and strong and tough as he is fragile. And we've seen that. He's played, more than 70 games, like twice. And you mentioned an ACL and Achilles. If he has that type of injury, then yeah, soon as he's back, people will give him the max. I'm not worried about that with Kawhi. I'm worried about just wear and tear, that body breaking down. Like, why in the world was he somewhat struggling during the playoffs physically? He had 22 games off for rest after only playing 9 games a year before. And so I'm just wondering if that body is going to put, like, in 2 years, does that body break down to the point where he's not a top 5 player anymore? I don't know. I'm just saying, if I were him, wherever I go, I'm getting that 4 years or 5 year max contract just to make sure I'm taken care of.
I'm going to say what I said from the start. Number 2 is going to stiff Toronto fans just the way he stiffed San Antonio fans. Watch and listen. The bomb's about to fall on Toronto. Not that I'm talking about real bombs, but you know what I'm talking about. They're going to be so let down because they have all but elected him the honorary Prime Minister of Canada. They can't do any more for this man than they have done. And yet, if he goes to Ballmer, West, and Doc, and he says, hey, I can only play 41 games next year. You don't think they would do it? Would they sign him for 41 games? Yes, they would. Want to bet on it?
41
yes, they
might
would.
be a little
I don't
extreme.
know, because I have been listening to my Hall of Famer sitting across from me, that big-headed Hall of Famer up there in that monitor, and he is in Denver, Colorado today because of the loss of his beloved and great owner, and he is there because he's one of the greatest Broncos ever. He played the toughest sport we have in this country called pro football. And yet he is applauding this man. This is why my mind is blown over this whole story and development. He's applauding this man for load management, like he's invented load management, and now we should all embrace load management. So I keep reading that number 2's idol as he was growing up was Michael Jordan, who played 82 games 9 times and also played 81 games and 80 games. So 80 plus 11 times. And now he's invented load management and he's being embraced for it. He's beloved. And yet you kept giving him the injury excuse. I can't remember if you did during the conference finals, going into the finals, but it was always, I kept hearing every day, boy, the Raptors should really be concerned about him because he had his bruised thigh, and it lingered. It lingered all the way from San Antonio all through this year in Toronto. I don't know how, but he is fragile. And then all of a sudden, he's overcompensating for his bruised thigh, and all of a sudden his left knee develops some kind of tendonitis or something. And that's all I read about during the Philly. He's limping through games 3 and 4. Oh, my God, he's hurt. But now is anybody talking about him being hurt? No, because is that the narrative of, boy, because you brought up the ultimate point to me, he's fragile, man. He's physically and sometimes mentally, emotionally. He just won't go hurt. He won't play through it. It's who he is, who he always was in San Antonio. He had a litany of injuries in San Antonio that cost games.
Where I disagree
Skip, I
with
see
you,
what
Skip,
you're doing.
Go ahead, Shannon. Where I disagree with you is would he be stiffing the Raptors fans? I think Kawhi is in that unique place where he can do whatever he wants, and you can't help but applaud him. Now, you won't, but in Toronto, he still would get standing ovations when he came back, right?
Everything makes sense about staying in Toronto, as this man has pointed out, except that it's in Toronto, to your point. Right. So he's going to stiff them because now he can get away with it. Well, I left you a championship. Well, but again, what would make the most sense is what Shannon is pointing out. You can make far more money to commit for 5 years in Toronto, and your team is absolutely loaded coming back because Danny Green could re-sign also. He could stay there. And Siakam's about to become a star, and Van Vliet is becoming a star, and Lowry is still there, a 5-time All-Star, and Gasol has a player option to stay. He would stay, and if Bacchus, you don't think that's a loaded basketball team?
You can also always take the long-term deal and then
you could
ask for a trade in 2 or 3 years.
You could.
Skip, I see what you're doing, Skip. What you're trying to do, Skip, you're trying to turn 2 fan bases against Kawhi. You've already done a great job of doing that in San Antonio, and you're trying to do it again in Toronto.
He did it.
And so you did. You did it. Because you kept
I'm not alone in that.
You kept this going.
Yeah.
Hey, but let me tell you what Kawhi's going to do. Kawhi says he's going to go to Toronto, and he's going to tell him, I'm going to be willing to stay, but I'm going to need $191 million in American money. That Canadian money is not the same as the American dollar. So I'm going to need $190 million in American money, and you got yourself a deal.
That's how it works.
That's how I was going to say,
That's how he doesn't have to ask
It's American
for that.
money.
Yes.
Yeah, he's getting that.
You're okay.
Now, he in Canada, they might pay him in Canadian money. I want American money.
All I know is that Shannon Sharpe, in his advancing age, has gone soft, completely soft. He's all about load management.
Skip.
Well,
right?
who invented load management?
I think
The
number
Spurs.
2 did. Oh, okay,
Spurs.
that's
You right?
true.
Greg
I'll buy
Popovich.
that.
He invented
That's what I
load
said.
management.
I told him earlier in the show, he was off for 60 games last year before they finally said, hey, what's up, man?
Well, just their pattern of playing guys 31 minutes, no more than 31, 32 minutes, and then their load management was what, 6 games off a year, something like that. But that's what they invented.
So in other words, Chris Broussard, in other words, we should be blaming the Spurs because if the child is bad, he grows up to be a bad adult. Who do we bring? Who do we blame? We blame the parents. So I blame the Spurs for putting this load management in Kawhi's mind.
I do agree
so
with
Kawhi
that.
taking advantage of it.
I don't agree
I'm
with
going to
that.
jump in. We got to leave it here. I'm going to save you from yourselves before you tear each other apart over this one, because Chris is going to hang with us for the next segment. Does the Greek Freak deserve to win his first MVP award tonight? NBA awards this evening. We'll discuss that up next.
No mercy.
Hi there, everybody. Jen Hale here. Thanks for listening to the Undisputed podcast. I wanted to let you know about today's sponsor, Talkspace. We all need someone to talk to. A person who can support us through the rough patches or even the everyday ups and downs of life. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is therapy for how we live today. It's mobile, it's available when you need it, and it's affordable. Talkspace is convenient and easy to use. You no longer have to wait for your next appointment to talk about what's on your mind. With Talkspace, you can send unlimited messages to your dedicated therapist from the privacy of your device, from anywhere, at any time of day. Talkspace is affordable. 1 month of therapy on the Talkspace platform costs about the same amount as a single face-to-face session. Best of all, you'll never have to wait a week to share what's on your mind. Talkspace has more than 4,000 licensed therapists who are experienced in addressing the challenges we all face. To match with your perfect therapist for a fraction of the price of traditional therapy, go to Talkspace.com. Make sure to use the code TALK to get your first week free and show your support for this show. That's TALK and Talkspace.com. Thanks again for listening to the Undisputed podcast. Back to the show.
No mercy.
By the end of tonight, either Giannis or James Harden will be named MVP at the NBA Awards show. The Greek Freak is a slight favorite after recording a career year. Giannis averaged about 28 points and 12 boards while leading the Bucks to the best record in the NBA. On the other hand, Harden was a scoring machine, leading the league at over 36 points per game. We are joined once again by NBA FS1 analyst Chris Broussard, who is a voter for these awards. Chris, putting you on the spot, who do you think deserves to be MVP?
I voted for Giannis. This was one of the, I've been voting, 20 years or so. And this was one of the closest I can remember. No question about it. So if Harden wins, I'm not going to, erupt and complain and all that. But I think it should be Giannis. And here's why. Remember, this is a regular season award. The votes are due like April 14th or something like that. So forget everything that happened in the postseason. And to be honest, both of these guys had their low points in the postseason. So if we voted based on postseason, it would obviously be Kawhi. So I'm going regular season. We can go through the stats. Obviously, Giannis was great offensively, rebounded the basketball, had 6 assists a game, was arguably not only one of the top 5 offensive players in the league, but one of the arguably the best defensive player in the league. In fact, he's one of the 3 finalists for Defensive Player of the Year with Rudy Gobert and Paul George. And I voted for Giannis for Defensive Player of the Year. So does it on both ends of the floor. But let's get to the crux of the matter. Because the argument for James Harden is this. Houston was floundering. They were done. They were 11-14 in early December, and Harden went on this 30-point tear, and he saved their season, right? My point is this. Why should we reward Harden why did they get in the hole? He allowed them to fall into an 11-14 hole with Chris Paul healthy, with Clint Capella healthy, with Eric Gordon healthy. All those guys were healthy when they were 11-14. So he essentially was spectacular for 4.5 months of a 6-month season in terms of individual play and winning. He was spectacular individually the whole year, but in terms of winning, which is important in this, he was only great for 4.5 months. Giannis never allowed Milwaukee to fall into a hole. They were right out of the gate, I think 7-0. They only lost 2 games straight once the whole year. He was great individually and team-wise, winning-wise, the entire 82-game season. He's better on both ends of the floor on defense than Harden, way better. It's got to be Giannis. Got to be. And I just convinced Shannon, I can tell by the look on his face.
Oh, you already know you didn't convince me because I was trying to convince you during the season that it should be James Harden. Because let me tell you why I think it should be James Harden. James Harden was third in the NBA in minutes at 37. Giannis was 42nd at 32. And here's the thing that you keep saying that Chris Paul was there. Chris Paul missed 24 games. Clint Capella missed 15. Eric Gordon missed 14. That's 53 total games between the second, third, and fourth best players. Middleton missed 5 games. Bledsoe missed 4. Brook Lopez missed 1. That's 10 games between their second, third, and fourth best players. Chris Paul, you said in December. Chris Paul missed 17 games in December and January. James Harden averaged 43 points, 8 assists in 39 minutes. That's what he did, Chris.
But Chris
Broussard.
was healthy.
Oh.
He went down after when the winning streak began. When they were 11-14, all those 3 players you mentioned were healthy. Why did Harden let them fall that low?
Hold on. And what we know now is that there was something going on. There was something brewing behind the scenes that we didn't know, Chris Broussard, that was causing this. So is it an accident that these numbers went to historic levels once Chris Paul was removed from the equation? I think not.
That's another reason
We've never
for
seen an
Giannis.
offense.
Because Harden, he didn't alienate teammates. He didn't alienate teammates. Everybody was all love up in Milwaukee.
Hold on. Well, why is it? Hold on. How is it James Harden? Because we've seen 2 places that Chris Paul has been and teammates have been alienated. He goes through a third. Nobody else from that team. There was no one from the Clippers that claimed except Chris Paul. There's no one that came from the Hornets or the Pelicans, whatever they were before they changed their name, came to Houston except Chris Paul. So what we're seeing is a common denominator here. The numbers that this guy was able to put up on a nightly basis is that something we had never seen. Only 7 guys have this many points more per game than James Harden. 5 of them belong to Wilt. 1 belongs to Michael. The other belongs to Elgin Baylor. When you start getting to that historic type of category, man, MVP should be on your mantle.
So allow me to say before I answer this question, this is going to be really hard for me to watch tonight because I just recently had to watch Giannis get exposed in the playoffs. He got exposed. And I recently had to watch James Harden do what he has too often done in the big game playoff stages, and that is fail miserably. Whether they had bickering going on, I don't know, but he failed miserably, and we've seen that regularly throughout his career. So now tonight I have to sit and watch, and I know, I get it. The definition of the award is what did you do in the regular season? But man, it's got a big asterisk in my mind about it because I'm like, I don't know. Is it possible number 2 wins the award tonight in a shocker, like he's an upset win?
Not at all.
You sure? There's not going to be a write-in vote, a late write-in vote? But it is too bad. We couldn't have had this. There's that lull before the playoffs start. I don't know what it is, 4 or 5 days? Why couldn't we just turn around and just do it
You could
on a
extend
Thursday
it a week.
night?
You could extend it a week.
Okay.
Give them a few more days off.
All right.
And have a show. I agree.
Just do the big, and it would really matter then. We'd be all over it. And I'd be really, because then I'd have no playoff inglory to taint my view of these guys. I'd be thinking, Giannis just had a breakout season, and I'm with you. I'm torn. I'm where I was. I'm with Shannon on this one because in the end, I do have to make 1 point for James's year on defense. He was second in the NBA in steals, and he was second in deflections. Is that not pretty good?
Yeah, he was better
doesn't that have impact on your basketball team? And then if you have 32 straight games of 30-plus points, that was revolutionary to me for a 6'5" guy to do that basically from the perimeter. 32 straight games, and his scoring average is the highest since Michael's in 86, 87. Wow, that's pretty great. And I do think, I'm with you on they struggled early because they were all struggling, and he was struggling too. But once he locked in, it felt revolutionary to me from that point forward, where I know Steph had a breakthrough season where he did it from the three-point line, but once James developed this floater where he could make you pay, where he could just go up underneath you and make the floater, I've just never seen anything like that. he became unstoppable as a solo act. And you just don't see 6'5" guys who are unstoppable as a solo act, right?
Look, he was fantastic.
Wow.
I mean, you mentioned it. And the way he did it, I love the way he did it. A lot of people said it was boring, but because it was incredible for one guy to dribble that much, everybody knows what he's going to do, and you can't stop him.
You can't stop
I mean,
him.
it was incredible. However, and I don't know if it's just Chris or I don't know if there are other players, but that style of play, particularly in the playoffs, but we're talking about the regular season, does that alienate guys? Because one guy is doing so much. It certainly alienated Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about the other guys or not.
You know why?
That's
Because he ran away with usage rate. I mean, he dominated
40,
41%.
yep.
And
That's
number
incredible.
2 was Russell Westbrook with 33%.
That's
what?
unbelievable. And that, I think you have to take that into consideration when you look. I don't want to take anything away from what he did individually. But that does come into play when you talk about him averaging 36 points a game. That and the three-point line. Like, Michael Jordan's 37 points was, to me, far more impressive because the three-point line was irrelevant at that point.
It was irrelevant.
And he didn't have a usage rate
Wasn't
like
it?
Harden.
Did it have? Let me ask you a question. Hold on. So I'm trying. If I'm not mistaken, they brought the 3-point line in what, 79?
But hardly anybody was shooting it. Not just Michael. No, Larry Bird is one of the greatest shooters ever, and he wasn't shooting it.
Whoa. So why do you get so because they weren't using it, you're gonna punish James Harden because he became proficient at it? It was in effect.
I'm
They
just
chose
saying
not
your
to use it. He used it.
scoring average is going to be higher.
Yep.
You know, we heard Dennis Rodman say recently Michael Jordan would average 50 nowadays. Now, I don't think that. I think Jordan would average 40.
No.
I think he'd average 40.
Does it bother you that Giannis, speaking of the three-point line, shot 26% from the three-point line? Does that bother you?
Well, and you mentioned it, and you were right on the money. He got exposed in the playoffs. Again, I said it before. At that time, it reminded me of LeBron against San Antonio. And they're at similar, LeBron was a little younger, but similar stages of their careers.
Okay.
And I think Giannis, it was good for him to learn that. And as with his work ethic, how much he wants to win, I'm sure he's working at it. But no, it doesn't. Overall, it doesn't really bother me from this season because it didn't hurt him in the regular season.
No.
Hurt him in the playoffs, though.
James Harden had 2 60-point games, 9 50-point games, and 2 50-point triple-doubles. Chris, what you want the man to do?
Well, if Giannis does win this MVP award, he will be the second European, along with Dirk Nowitzki, to claim the title. Gentlemen,
that was the year.
great
It was
stuff
really
this
bad.
morning.
Remember,
They got beat in the
It's a
first
good
round.
one, yeah.
That's
Chris,
true.
we really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. Still to come this morning, has Zion passed Drew Brees as King of New Orleans? That's up next.
No mercy.
Hi everyone, Jen Hale here with a quick word from today's sponsor, Rothy's. Rothy's are the everyday flats for life on the go. They're stylish, comfortable, and go with everything, from yoga pants to dresses and skirts. They've quickly become a most loved gotta-have brand thanks to their wide range of colors and patterns, with new ones launching constantly. And there is zero break-in period. Since Rothy's are crafted using 3D knitting techniques and hand assembly, their seamless design means right out of the box comfort. Best of all, they're made from recycled plastic water bottles. That's right, over 25 million water bottles have been diverted from landfills to make these gorgeous and sustainable shoes. Another major bonus, they're fully machine washable, so your pair will be fresh and ready every laundry day. Plus, Rothy's always come with free shipping and free returns and exchanges. There's no risk and no reason not to try. You'll quickly discover why BuzzFeed called them their forever shoes. Check out all the amazing styles available right now at rothys.com/cadence. Comfort, style, and sustainability. These are the shoes you've been waiting for. Head to rothys.com. That's ROTHYS.com/cadence today. Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. Back to the show.
No mercy.
Zion Williamson posted this picture over the weekend, and yep, take a look. That just happens to have a jersey in the background belonging to another famous New Orleans athlete, number 9, Drew Brees. He and his sons are huge Pelicans fans. Turns out Breeze gave the newest Pel this autographed jersey with a special message. Quote, to Zion, passing the torch to you.
Wow.
Who dat?
Woo.
Strong words, Drew. Shannon, are you surprised a bit by this?
Skip, I don't want people, Skip. On Wednesday, Skip, I'm gonna be 51. So I'm old, but I'm not that old. And I don't want to come off as sounding like a grumpy old man. But Skip, this is ridiculous. You're passing the torch for what? What has he won? For being drafted? You're passing the torch for what? This is too much, too soon. Normally you see guys pass the torch, let's just say in fighting. Guy gets beat, he's been at the top of the mountain for a long time. The young, hungry lion comes, hey, it's not my time anymore, guy. I'm passing the torch. In basketball, you see NBA champion, Magic said, hey, me and Larry had to concede this. We had to get him to Mike. There was nothing we could do. We fought him as long as we could. We held him off as long as we could. We just had to let it go. Mike, you the new guy on the block. Skip, Zion Williamson was drafted #1 overall. He hasn't dribbled an NBA basketball in a meaningful NBA game yet. And you're passing the torch because of why? Anthony Davis was there for 6 years, was a 25-12 guy, and he got nothing. Skip, I'm confused. This is baffling to me. Drew, I get it. You want to welcome your guy to the city with open arms, to let him know, hey, guy, the Who Dat Nation and New Orleans Saints and Pelican fans, we're ready to fully embrace you. But Skip, this is ridiculous.
So, just for the record, this was significant. And the reason I was a little ahead of this curve is I'm going to go back to draft night, moments after Zion did officially go #1 to the Pelicans. He did his ESPN interview.
Okay.
And I tweeted right after that interview, I'm going to read the tweet. Love Zion's message to New Orleans fans. Let's dance. Loved it. Then I continue in my tweet. Pels finally have their Drew Brees. I tweeted that. Draft night. Look it up.
Yeah.
So, Drew Brees is a big Pelicans fan, and he's a big college basketball fan, and he has closely followed Zion through his 1 year, obviously, at Duke. And he has already reached the conclusion that he is ready to pass the torch to this kid because he's seen this kid can live up. This kid can handle it. This kid has a personality that is beyond what Drew saw from Anthony Davis in his early days. Remember, Anthony went #1 back in 2012, and Drew did not pass the torch to Anthony. Again, you could say Drew wasn't ready to pass the torch to anybody because he was a much younger man back in 2012. But I don't think he saw the magnetism from Anthony that he's already seen from Zion. I don't think he saw the energy and the passion and the night after night after night electricity that Zion plays with that doesn't really translate into AD's game. Never really did. He put up numbers, but there wasn't voltage to it. There wasn't this kind of voltage on or off the court.
Did you watch AD in college with the 4 blocks a night? Did you see him? Did you see him not allow anybody to shoot any shots inside of 5 to 8 feet of the basket because he was throwing everything in the stands? Skip, Drew Brees became Drew Brees. Yes, when he got there, he reached out into the community because of what transpired with community. He made himself available. But let's not kid ourselves. Drew Brees would have just been another athlete that was great in the community had he not won that Super Bowl. The Super Bowl changed everything in Drew Brees' life. And when you win, that's what it comes down to. I'm trying to figure out how can a guy that's never played a meaningful NBA game get something passed to him when he hasn't done anything?
Drew Brees is already sold, and I'm sold also, and I'm sold on passing the torch because as much pressure as that heaps on those broad shoulders of Zion Williamson, he can handle it. Did you watch him handle draft night? Was he not completely comfortable with all the attention?
Yes.
I'm in. I'm all in.
Hold on.
He's going to change the fate of Pelicans basketball. Somebody to my right is shaking her head because she knows what's about to happen. Thank you very much.
I hope he does. But Skip, I mean, how do you mess up draft night? You think the people that helped you get there, your mom, your dad, there was coaches, there's someone along the way. It's hard for you to mess that up. He did an unbelievable job. He's extremely proud for his mom and what she was able to do for him because he said she sacrificed some of the things that she wanted to do to make sure his brother, I think he has a brother or a sister, that could have the best of everything. So it's really hard to mess that up. I'm not trying to minimize what he said because I thought the speech was very heartfelt. It was very touching. But that ain't got nothing to do with passing the torch. That has nothing to do with that. You see these young sprinters come along. You see that. Usain Bolt, he took the torch from someone. He passed it along. But that's after you win the gold medal, you win the world championship. You just can't get drafted and get it passed on.
Interesting. But I'm here to tell you, maybe you could speak to this, but to me, Zion's personality is already stronger than AD's was off the court.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And another bonus, they share a training facility.
Yep.
They share a cafeteria.
Oh, that's
so,
true. Yeah.
you know,
The
Zion's
team,
going to be
teams.
having
Yeah.
lunch with the Saints players, including Drew Brees, and getting to soak up some
Good
of
point.
that leadership and
Yep.
and that type of thing. So it's going to bode very well for the Pelicans. New Orleans fans are on fire for this next season. All right, still to come today here on Undisputed, LeBron gave us a Space Jam 2 teaser this weekend. We're going to show it to you up next.
No mercy.
Our final topic of today, everyone, including Shannon, can rest easy because LeBron does indeed have a court to practice on while he shoots Space Jam 2 this summer. Whew. LeBron was putting up shots this weekend on the new court at the house of NBA superfan Jimmy Goldstein. Shannon, what's your reaction?
I have no problem with it. You know LeBron James, no matter what has going on, he's going to find a way to get them shots up. He's going to get that in, Skip Bayless. And see, everybody's going to have a problem with this. But I hope they understand that Michael Jordan shot Space Jams in the summer of 1995 after the Orlando Magic put butts in Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Skip, you remember that? You remember that, Skip?
Yeah, so
I
this
don't
is
have a
after
problem with it
LeBron
'cause
missed the playoffs, right? At least Mike didn't miss the playoffs that year. Huh. Well, I'm
Whatever.
still
He's
trying
getting
to
up
figure
shots
out.
and he'll be ready.
The superfan Jimmy Goldstein's house is far from the Burbank studios where Warner Brothers is, so I don't get how he's going to go there to practice. He's going to helicopter there. I don't really get it. This isn't exactly at Warner's, so I don't understand it. And the other thing I don't understand is why didn't he post shooting free throws? He should have been making 10 straight free throws. That's what he should be doing in his
You don't worry
offseason.
about what he needs to be working.
Yeah.
He's working on his game. LeBron James works on his all-around game, Skip.
So he probably missed 10 straight three-pointers and finally made that one, and they posted that one.
There you
We
go.
gotta go, guys. That
There
is
you
it
go
for
with-
us, but we will be back tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern. Have a fabulous Monday, everybody.
No mercy.
Thanks for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Jenny Taft. Join us again at the same time tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you then.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.